This is the 91st minute.
Arsenal have beat City in the Community Shield, the Charity Shield, formerly known. Fun game, went down to penalties. Kevin De Bruyne hits the post. Arsenal lift the trophy. Milo, let's just get into it. What are your general thoughts about this one?
All right, first of all, very happy. I did talk to you guys that were here last week and on YouTube will know that we got into a heated preseason debate. I gladly admitted to Gart that, you know, for me, the Charity Shield, as I will call it, is definitely a notch above preseason. It's the curtain raiser, and what I love about it, no matter who's playing, what I love about it is it's the week before the league starts, right? It's the curtain raiser. It's always a good occasion, and it always was something I looked forward to every year. I mean, when I used to have season tickets, like I looked forward to the Charity Shield because I knew I'd be starting my weekly trips the following week, to the football. Preseason, you keep an eye on it. For me, I keep an eye on it, and away you go, right? And you just want the players to be ready. I think the game itself, I'm really happy with the result, just because beating them, it's been a while, let's be honest. And I thought over the 90 minutes, I thought we were good for it too. I think if the game had ended 1-0, I still would have the positive I would have taken from it is I think Arteta has learned from the last 3-4 games against Pep and City. And I think you can see that in the recruitment that Arsenal have done. And I think you can see that in the way that the team lined up and the way that they moved into certain positions. And I think we're going to see more of that as the season unfolds. So, no Zinchenko yesterday. Obviously, I didn't watch the game for Ukraine. I assume he played in that.
Yeah, he was before.
Yeah, he was. So I didn't watch. I didn't have time to watch that. But so obviously Timber playing on that side. I don't know how much we're going to see that, but I love the versatility. Timber moving in. He played Partey and Rice, which is something I think we spoke about a few weeks ago, that he has that option. Maybe that will be his preferred option. Based on what I saw yesterday, it might well be, because Rice kind of played in the Xhaka role, but he is much more committed to the defensive side. And he's also got much more ability on the defensive side, at least on paper, right? Given what we know about Rice. And I like Granit Xhaka. You guys know that. I think Rice is an upgrade, though. And I don't think many people will disagree with that. So I think that extra ability there, and Declan's willingness to be involved and get back. And, the question is, can he do that till May? Right? Because what if he might have the energy to do that until February, but it's that run-in that's going to be key, and that's where obviously squad rotation and all the rest of it will come in. I really liked what I saw yesterday. I think given City's lineup and our lineup, I think both teams rusty. I think both teams have new players in key positions that they're trying to feel their way in. It's very unlikely you're going to hit the first game of the season at 100%, right? So it's kind of seeing what you do. I don't know if that's the City we will play against when we meet in the league, or whether City will be another notch above. That's where I feel about the Charity Shield falling in a notch above preseason, but it isn't a league game. The stakes are definitely lower. There is a piece of silverware at the end of it, but it's the Community Shield, right? It's supposed to be a friendly affair. And I think, but overall, just psychologically, you could argue it might have a positive effect on the Arsenal players, because they finally got a win over City, albeit on penalties. But from me, and I obviously want to hear your guys' thoughts. From me, I think we were good for it yesterday, and there was a few performances I was pretty happy with. All the new players, even Havertz, had some really good moments, I thought, like holding the ball up. He's clearly that option for when we can't play it out the back if the opposition are pressing. Ramsdale's there was one moment in particular where he went long, and Havertz beautifully brought it down, shielded the ball, made the play, continued the move. So that's what Havertz is in there for. Havertz isn't in there to be the number 9, and I know that people will judge him like they kind of did at Chelsea on his goals. I don't think that's what he's brought in for. Much like I think we're seeing with Jesus. It's a similar role. I don't think we're relying on Jesus to score our goals either. So it's an interesting one because I don't think we have a clinical 9. I don't think Eddie is it, but he's a different option. But yeah, overall, really happy, and it's nice to start the season that way. But the business end starts next weekend, and Nottingham Forest. So that's, to me, that's a bigger game than yesterday.
Yeah. Speaking of Nottingham Forest, Turner, I think, is just signing for Nottingham as well. So you guys might be having it right coming in. Hoff, what are your thoughts about the Community Shield?
I thought it was entertaining. And it's, just that anticipation. Like, we know the season is coming, and then the Shield is here, and you're like, oh, it's only 1 week. It doesn't, I mean, I haven't seen Spurs play in it, so I haven't watched my team play in it. So, but it's nice to know, oh, there's what's Sunday, 5 days, that first Friday night game. So it's, that's my favorite part. If my team ever played in it, I'd be happier, but who knows when that's going to happen. I just about preseason matches in general, I'm always mostly a performances over results kind of person. I just want to see improvement, good performances. If you win or lose, doesn't matter as much, but I think results help. I mean, good results help, certainly. Just building a mindset of overcoming, winning, things like that. So I think that can do one. It could be something that helps Arsenal this season. I think that's certainly possible. It's 1-1 after regulation, but still, we can beat these guys. We're lifting the trophy today, they're not. So it's just it's a weird mindset thing. I'm sure top level athletes all have that, some kind of trying to win everything mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. We spoke a little bit of preseason last week. I'll just rehash what my thoughts, and I have kind of, I wouldn't say changed, but I have kind of refined my thoughts about it, which are basically, it means different things to certain teams based on their stage of development, right? Arsenal are at this point where they've just finished second, and they need to push on. They need to find that extra gear. Not that they weren't in a really good gear last season, but you just want to see, the margins are so fine now for Arsenal to improve, and you want to see it in every facet of the game. And this goes, this goes back to United as well. United are at a stage where the squad's coming together. We have depth. You want to see performances every single week. City, on the other hand, not so much, right? They don't have a whole lot to prove. I mean, obviously, it's been all over the stats. Their record in Community Shield, they've lost 3 in a row or whatever, but gone on to win the Premier League each time. But still, the way City played is how they're going to play. They played the way City play. Obviously, they didn't start with De Bruyne, but the way their wingers played, I thought they played. They were trying. Obviously, Kovacic settling in as well. They're going to bring Gvardiol now as well. I thought it was a classic City game. I call it City snooze fest, because when they get the ball, they could be right on the brink of the final third. There could be Haaland running in behind, and then Bernardo Silva will pass it all the way back to Ederson. And okay. And I'm a United fan, so I'm obviously not rooting for City. But I found myself rooting for Arsenal just because of this fact, because Arsenal at least try to play. They play with tempo. They try to play attacking. Like Milo said, they were playing long balls into Havertz if they couldn't find it through the ground. They were trying to play some good football, which is we won't make this a Pep bashing thing. We'll keep it on the Community Shield. But I thought it showed really good heart. I think one interesting thing was when City were up 1-0 up, Arsenal had to start, because then City started playing their keep away, away at the back. Arsenal had to come out and press. Sorry, not when they were 1-0 up, when it was 0-0. And just before they conceded the goal, Partey was, Phil Foden made a beautiful turn on Partey. And, these are the margins, right? These are just tiny margins. That high press, you don't think of Partey as a high pressing style of player, right? At least I don't. He's kind of, this deep sitting style of defensive mid. But, this is like the new style of high press that you have to do. And just one small turn by Phil Foden, who I think should have a amazing season, opens up the goal for Cole Palmer, who is looking like a good prospect for City off the right wing as well.
Great finish that was too.
Great finish.
I do agree with you. I think that moment Partey got caught out because I don't think, and that might have been as a result of some build-up play for us that didn't work. You know what I mean? Because obviously when you're building up and you switch shape and people move out of position, if you turn the ball over, as you would say in North America, like if you turn it over in a certain spot, you're going to be on the back foot one way or another. So somebody's going to have to cover, somebody's going to have to do that role. So Partey finds himself having to press high, which I don't think that's what he's there to do. I think that would be the job of Rice, and that would be the job of Odegaard or whoever, the higher you go up the pitch. But and you're going to have those moments. Foden's a great player. You're not going to come through 90 minutes and not chances against your team. It's just, that's not how it works. So maybe the odd game in history a team has 0 chances on goal, but it's pretty rare. So I think I thought their goal came obviously right after a substitution. Timber coming off, he was starting to look tired, I thought, and not surprising because he was absolutely bombing all over the place. He was all over the shop, making blocks.
Great player.
I thought he had a fantastic game.
He's got the dog. Surprised. He's got that dog in him.
He does, and that is something we need. Obviously, Tierney, a bit harsh on Tierney. I think people are going to be harsh on him because, as your team gets better, you start to look. It exposes your weaker link, if people like, right? Tierney is a backup left back. Looks like he's staying at the club, maybe. Maybe more so than ever. It looks like he's staying at the club. Tierney will get grief for that when he came on because Palmer turned him like that.
Yeah, it's a tough slip. Yeah,
it is. But also, when you first come on, sometimes it takes you a few minutes to get up to the pace of the game, and also you don't know the player you're up against either. You know what I mean? I just thought Tierney will get grief for that, but a sudden change and they capitalized on it. So that, again, a small margin there, which, in the league against City, something Arteta needs to think about. If I make a substitution, we have to be ready to adjust, and they might push at that exact time. It's just one of those very, very small margins. But I like that we're talking about these small margins. This is why I was going to say earlier, had it finished 1-0 to City, which it looked like it was going to do, I would have been disappointed that we didn't beat them again. That would have been the biggest disappointment. Not lifting the shield, that wouldn't have really bothered me. Not beating them again or not giving them a run. But even at 1-0, it would have been the best performance against City for Arsenal in a number of years, because typically we'll go back 3 years, maybe we go toe to toe with them for 15-20 minutes, then they score 1, and then it's a trickle effect, 2, 3, 4 by the 90 minutes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Last season, I feel like we went toe to toe with them for about 70 minutes. You know what I mean? And we had a really good performance against them at home, but we still ended up losing 3-1, I think, right? So again, it's about also seeing the course, right? So the whole Arsenal, when they play City, they have to buy in. If they go 1-0 down, they need to dig deep and fight their way back. And I thought, to be honest, the end was always going to be a little bit chaotic because of the changes that we made. We had, obviously, Trossard came in and Smith Rowe came in and Fabio Vieira came in. So there's a lot of different dynamics going on up front. And I thought it might create City some problems, and it did, because it's much harder to predict, right? If you're facing Saka, you know what Arsenal are trying to do offensively. Once you make that amount of changes, it just adds a little bit of chaos in the mix, and I think that's what led to the...
Absolutely. Off any closing thoughts?
Bring on the season.
bring on the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like Fabio Vieira might be the Saka backup on the right, kind of like who they're gonna rotate in. Maybe I think in preseason he played off the right side a couple times because you guys don't really have a Saka backup, but could be interesting to see what happens over there.
Him and yeah, I mean he also obviously is slotted in for Odegaard before when Odegaard needs a rest. There are going to be games, especially with the Champions League. But Emil Smith-Rowe gives you an option to cover on the left side and also Odegaard as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like I said this to you guys last week. I'm very happy with what I've seen in terms of our entire front five. Very rotational. You know what I mean? And players in every position that can play in different positions. So, yeah, the one thing I will say is we talked about Timber. Obviously, I thought Saliba was immense against Haaland yesterday. There's a lot of talk about that today, obviously. And, you know, it's the Charity Shield. Let's see if Saliba can pocket him for a Premier League game before we get too excited. But, you know, when we lost Saliba to injury last year, it was a turning point, clearly. The results changed instantly. I think it's fair to say it was a big part of it. Do we have that cover in place? Can we make, you know, if we get a key injury like that, do we have that cover in place? That's where I don't know. I think we're in a better position than we have been for a long, long time.
If you enjoyed the content, please do subscribe to the 91st Minute here on YouTube and use the links in the descriptions to follow us on all social media platforms.